Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. Coming up on about 100 years ago, 1924 to be exact, a gentleman by the name of William Peterson made a terrific discovery and invention, and I don't think anybody out here can honestly say that they haven't been bailed out by this tool at one time or another. So let's go downstairs. I think you know what I'm talking about, and go check it out. Now, one of our subscribers had wrote me and said, can I do, he says, I'm having trouble with my vice grips. They're always rusting up and there's nothing, you know, no matter what I do. And I said, yeah, I feel your pain. You know, thank goodness I have an area that's climate controlled and I don't have that problem with the rust inside. But I just ordered a lot of pliers and it came with these 3 vice grips, and you could see they've seen better days. You could see the typical rust that you might get on a vice grip that was left outside. You can see here the finish is pretty much worn off, and it's the same way. It's all rusted. And they're stamped tools, and that happens to it. I'll show you what we're going to do to fix these up, make them look presentable. First thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the, look at this, don't even, this, have you seen this before? This is one of the rare models where the thumb screw is replaced with a carriage bolt. What we're going to do is we're going to take out the bolts in the back, dump these in a bucket of vinegar, and only because there's a lot of areas inside here that we really can't get to with the wire brush. So you might as well let the vinegar do its work, and we'll come back in a couple days and work. Well, it's been 2 days in the vinegar. We took out all the vice grips. We scrubbed it down with a stainless steel wire brush. It'll turn completely black, like muddy water, from all of the vinegar and the acid interaction between that and the rust. You can see the flash rusting starting to happen. I've only had these out of the water for about 10 minutes. After the vinegar, we put them into a baking soda and water, hot water bath to neutralize the acid. So, and the reason we did the vinegar mostly, you can see here, see the springs and everything and around there, that's all going to be all the springs and everything now came out pretty much rust-free, so that's good. You know, with certain restorations, you know, like especially something like this, these are inexpensive tools. You know, I've seen guys say, well, you know, maybe you can drill out the rivets, take it apart, and take... You could take this down to every little individual part, but then, you know, you got to get the rivets to put them back and whatever. It's just more work than they're worth. These are inexpensive tools. We're trying to get these just back in service for the average guy. Now, you can see where we are now. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take these over to the wire brush. One word of caution that there is some kind of coating on here, chromium or whatever that was. You can see it's flaking off. I always wear a mask when I'm using the wire brush, besides, of course, safety glasses, which is the most important thing. But I always wear a mask, too, because, you know, some of the stuff you don't know when it flakes off. So let's go wire brush these, and we'll be back. Here we are at our post wire brush evaluation, and all I can say is I'm probably pretty as surprised as you are. Holy cow, did these turn out nice, huh? I took off all of the original chrome plating on there with that heavy wire brush, and you know, you remember what the finish looks like on these when they're new, and look at this. This is really nice, right? Now the only thing is, obviously, we have to protect them. I would love to put some shellac on, and we did everything. We did even inside here. You could see, got all the insides and the springs, and it's just beautiful. But now, how do I protect them? If I put shellac on them, because I think there's some zinc in this metal or something, I think it might darken it, and we don't want to darken them, right? So because they look so nice now. So and it's funny too, I bought a special spray paint just for this job. Now I bought this just today for this job, and it's a Rustoleum metallic finish. Basically all it is, it's like a silver, you know, but it's a real fine silver, and it does a good job. It will look very much like like these do now. So I'm wondering, should I do that or should I use clear? I'm going to have to think on this and get back to it tomorrow. Okay, on the back of the 2 vice grips, these are the adjusting bolts, and these are factory ones, and you can see here what they're comprised of. It's a knurled head, and it's reduced down here to press on that little shaft. Now, on the smaller vice grip, they must have lost it and substituted this carriage bolt, and we did a thread check, and it's 5/16 by 18 threads per inch, which is a very common thread. So I'm going to have to make one of these. But on a regular bolt like this is the same thread, 5/16 by 18. But if we turn this down, that knurled section will be a little bit too small. So we want a little bit larger head here. I went through my scrap bin and I found this little piece of cut off aluminum. So what we're going to do real quickly is chalk it up. We're going to put this on here, knurl it up, and make an adjustment bolt. So let's get to it. Now here we have that little scrap piece into the jaws of the chuck locked in. We're going to use this drill, the actual drill to tap a 5/16 threaded hole is a F drill. This is an F drill, but I always try and save my unusual drills, and again, to keep this sharp. So I'm going to drill it out with a slightly smaller drill and then finish it up to size with the F drill. Now, when you want to put threads into a hole, you need a tool called a tap. And a tap puts threads inside of a hole, where a die puts threads on the outside of, let's say, a pipe or a bolt or something. So we want to thread this, and there's 3 different types of taps. And this is real quick, but there's a tap called a taper tap. And you could see how that starts. The threads don't really start getting thick till about halfway up the tap. That's so you could start the hole very easily to start the threading. The next type of tap we have is a plug tap. And you could start the hole, you could start the threads with this kind of tap, but it's easier with the taper tap. But if you only had one tap, this is the kind of tap you buy. And the last type of tap to know about, it's called the bottom tap. And you can see here, the threads start very close to the tip. And that is so that when you're tapping into a blind hole, which is a hole you don't go all the way through, that you can tap all the way and get the threads all the way to the bottom of the hole. Whereas if you use one of these other taps, you won't get the threads all the way down. And you can see here, I don't have a 5/16 bottom tap, and you can see where the threads end. So it don't go all the way down. So that's just an interesting little tidbit about taps. Now, we cut off the head of the bolt here because we just need this section. And now what we're going to do is we're going to taper this. We want to bring this down to look similar to the top of, to the front of this. This is what the original one looks like. So we're going to do the same thing over here. And we're going to do that on both sides. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Okay, here's where we're at now. You see, this will be, the reason we did both ends is, you see here, I wanted that conical shape so it bottoms out in the bottom here. And we're going to fill this with epoxy. And then when we screw this on, that'll be a solid, that's not going anywhere. And then we did the front, as you could see, so it looks like the other one. So let's go and knurl this tip and we'll be finished with this. Now you know my favorite part. You remember what they look like before we started. Okay, we are calling this project done, and I have to tell you, I'm really impressed with the way these cleaned up, huh? They look just absolutely beautiful. And, you know, you see what we did with the knurling here? Now, I didn't make the knob like the factory knob. I do like them a little bit larger. Normally, for the smaller the vice grip, the smaller the knob is. But I like a little larger one. And we would get a nice knurling on that. Kept everything else looking good. But it works fantastic, as it should. Everything is lubricated. Used grease, a little bit of grease on the very tip of the threading. And then everything else, we use the 50-50 mix and a little bit 3-in-1 oil, and even in the springs back here, all the springs are nice and clean on the inside, no more rust. Just beautiful pliers. These you know that they still make these pliers today. Irwin still makes the pliers. The problem is that they're made overseas now, and a lot of collectors they look for these pliers. And you can see basically, if you're looking for the old type, you'll see it says Vise-grip here. On the other side it says Peterson, DeWitt, Nebraska, which is for where he came from. and where these were manufactured for so many years. And one thing you could basically look for is there's a little, you see that little pin there, that little floating pin for this release lever? Well, that floating pin, I have some lubricant down here that's coming off. That floating pin is made for, is the difference. With the new ones, you'll see they have like a rivet there. It looks something like this. So that's how you can pretty much tell the difference. Now, one of the main complaints with the newer vice grips is it's in the jaw. And if you look here, look at the jaws here. Now these, I don't even know how old these are, but they're obviously old. They're 20 years old maybe. But look at the jaws. They're pristine. They're perfect, because when they made these here in the United States, I don't know, these are raised on or welded on. These jaws, whatever material they used, were almost indestructible. Anybody that has an old pair of vice grips knows that. When you clamp this thing on, you never worried about mashing the jaws down. But with the newer ones, the ones from overseas, that's the first thing you'll see, that the jaws do go. The rust come off real easy. Let me show you how these work. Now, real quickly, just in case you've never seen how one of these beautiful tools work, it's very easy to adjust. What you do, if you wanted to clamp up, let's say on this round stock here, you would put the round stock into the pliers, and then you would just rotate this as you're giving a little bit of pressure. Rotate this until you get about, a little bit over 2 fingers apart here, and then you would squeeze down, and you'll hear that iconic lock. And when you hear that lock, this isn't going, you can't pry this off. I mean, it is solid, and it will not come off. Now, if you want to release it, you just squeeze this over here, the release mechanism. Just squeeze that like that, and it pops right off. So very easy to operate. Great tool. If you don't have one, you really should look for one, because they have saved many of us multiple times on clamping onto bolts that are rounded off or stripped. And they have a multitude of uses. So in closing, we have the 3 vice grips, restorations, beautiful tools, very easy to restore. If you do find these rusted up, they can be saved, and don't worry about them. They are made to last. And I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks so much, and hope you have a nice day. Bye-bye.